Hey, Blue Table fans! We're going to take a look at some Necromunda books today. And this is going to be really short and sweet. So, Necromunda is basically, it's a miniatures battles game, but the way that it's set up and the way that it's written, it's actually more like a role-playing game, where you have, instead of a character, a single hero, you have a gang of 8 to 20 guys, let's say. So, however, the way the game's written is that one player is the arbitrator, and you can run it straight and play basically one-off games, and not one-off games, but campaign games that are by a strict set of rules. However, you can easily run it as an actual role-playing game and make modifications, house rules, the whole thing, which of course introduces all the ills of the role-playing game genre. And if you subscribe to Facebook groups or whatever groups, like I do, you see basically the same questions over and over again. It's like, I have a player. Who is this? Subtext, please side with me and tell me I'm right. And then the opposite too. My DM won't let me do this. And the answers are always the same, but it never stops. Years and years go by, people just asking the same questions. So back to Necromunda. You can run it as a role-playing game, but it has sort of the downsides of that. And of course, as a miniatures battles game where you run it more strictly by the rules, there's all the disadvantages of going with that as well, and advantages. Okay, so what books do you want to buy for Necromunda? So first off, I don't have one handy, but there's the Necromunda Underhive basic set. And with that, you get an Escher gang, a Goliath gang, you get dice and markers, and you also get a rule book. That rule book that comes in that set, that is garbage. You may as well just throw it out. Totally outdated. Yeah, I'm sure. In the comments, people will be like, yeah, but Sean, there are 3 pages that are useful. All right, nerds. You know, there's always an exception to the rule. I get it. Yes, but blah, blah, blah. So if you're really going to start the game and you don't need an Escher gang and you don't need a Goliath gang, then you really just need the chips and the dice, because Necromunda does have specialty dice. And so, but I do believe you can buy those separately off of eBay. So if you're not going to play those 2 gangs, I would just get your dice and your markers off of eBay or wherever. But the kits, it's not bad, but definitely don't, if you're not don't need the models, and you already don't need the rulebook, don't get that Underhive thing. That's my advice. You can also, they have a new boxed set, which is Dark Uprising, which is this bad girl. Now this is amazing, but it does have a pretty hefty price tag. Right now, as I'm making this video, this retails for $2.90. Yikes! And if you don't wait, there's tons of videos unboxing it, explaining the value of everything. It has 17 sprues of terrain, and it's good terrain, guys. But if you don't need that, then you really just need the gangs, and then this also has dice and things in it. I loved it. I found it to be a really good buy for the amount of enjoyment we got out of it. But you'll just have to decide, how you want to go about that. It does come with the Chaos Cultist side has 15 guys, and the Palatine Enforcers, these guys here, you get 11 models. And they're cool. It's the new hotness. It's fantastic. And the dice sets are really nice. So I do recommend that. And it has a rule book with current rules in it. However, even with that, you're going to want, here's your first purchase that you need to make. You need a Necromunda rulebook. This is not the same as what comes in the basic kit. It has updated rules as far as I know. I'm sure they've had FAQs and stuff like that. So this rulebook, it's pretty thick, and you've got 190 some odd, 191 pages. So this is a really good value. It has this little bookmark thing in it, which I love, and I use it all the time. We've been playing Necromunda like crazy, and I love it. I'm in love with this. I'm running it as a role-playing game. I'm not using the campaign rules and all of that. I'm just doing it where, yeah, I'm running like role-playing adventures, and it's awesome. My players love it. They're hooked. It's fantastic. All right. Next thing you want to buy is Gangs of the Underhive. So those are the two books you need. You need the rule book, and you need Gangs of the Underhive. So this is like, if you were into 40K 10 years ago, you'd need a rule book, and then you'd need an army book. And this is basically the army book for all 6 of the basic gangs that are in the game. And you also get the campaign guide for a basic campaign, and you get all the equipment and all the bounty hunters that you can hire, stuff like that. The artwork in this is crazy good. They've done an amazing job on the artwork. It's pretty lavish. Like, I'm enjoying this book, the artwork. And yeah, it's got all the gangs, and I use this all the time when I'm running my game. I look in this for reference. It has all the weapons, the weapon attributes, the skills. And again, Necromunda, especially if you're ready to do a lot of house rules, a lot of homebrew stuff, which is the normal thing you would do in any type of role-playing game, then this is a great resource. So those are really those are the two books that you need. And now, first off, some of these are still hanging around various game shops, and I made the mistake of buying them. Don't buy these gang war books. These are the equivalent of the 40K indexes. These came out when they first came out with the game, and they were great at the time, but they're basically not completely nerds. They're basically obsolete. Like, this is all in the other books. And so that was an error that I made. One thing that now there's 3 expansion books that I would recommend. If you can swing it, great, but you don't really need them. But I'll tell you what's in it, because you do need these 3 expansion books do function like army books, basically. So the first one is the Book of Peril, and in the Book of Peril you get the army list basically for Venator gangs, which are like bounty hunter gangs. And this is guys, it's a savage free-for-all. Like, there's so much. That's what I was impressed with. Like, I expected to open Necromunda and find, like, it was in the 90s where it was like kind of a 40K spin-off, and you basically just saw the same weapons, same weapon profiles, slightly different genre. But in this, oh man, the equipment, everything that your guys can have, like respirators, filter plugs, photo goggles, all sorts of, chemical injectors, gas, Frinzon. It's awesome. It has the same depth as a science fiction role-playing game. It's really amazing. What I've done is, because like on the stat block for Necromunda, they have like the normal stuff that you see in 40K now. In fact, in the modern 40K, where weapon skill isn't a number to be compared, it's actually the die roll, like 3+. That's how they do it in Necromunda now. But they have additional stats, leadership, cool, willpower, and something else. And I've simply changed those into the equivalent of the stats in a role-playing game. And you might think, well, yeah, but those are, because they're all like mental stats. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But all the physical stuff is in the basic stat line of like weapon skill and initiative and stuff like that. So anyway, Book of Peril is really cool. It has a lot of weird stuff in it. It has that grimdark feel to it, but mostly it's kind of like a science fiction role-playing game. It sort of smacks of cyberpunk a little bit, which is what I really wanted to do. So I was lucky to run across this, because the 40K nature of it allows me to rope in people that wouldn't otherwise show up every week for a science fiction role-playing game. So Book of Peril, I love it. It's got the army list for the bounty hunters in it, as well as tons of source material, background material, a bunch of other like hired guns and stuff like that. It's really great. Do recommend this. It is one of the smaller of the books. Now with Dark Uprising, they came out with 2 other books. The Book of Judgment, and this is basically the army book for the Enforcers, which are like the reincarnation of those old sort of Judge Dredd type models. And the Enforcers, man, they look so cool. And of course this has tons of source material as well, like, you know, psychers and stuff like that. And I gotta tell you, if you're like me and you love 40K, but you've kind of had it a little bit with how it's, you know, emerging, where it's like, I don't want to paint 150 figures and then find out that the whole game has changed a month later, which is kind of how it is. Every 2 months, something new is coming out that's sort of changing everything, which is great. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying, well, let's acknowledge that that's the nature of it. So anyway, the Palatine Enforcers, or Enforcers for short, these guys are crazy awesome. This is the faction I play as my NPC gang, so to speak. And there's lots of equipment, you know, bounty hunters, and it's so well done. I mean, this is such a nice book. And it's a nice balance. It's a nice balance of utility items, optional items, an actual rules, by the rules army list, and background. And just, it's really good. It's a good read, guys. A really good read. And, you know, what a place to go in the 40K universe, because nary an orc or Grey Knight in sight. It's all, like, Necromunda is the world of the weirdos of 40K. You know, the Water Guild, Spirers, like 40K type nobles, rogue traders that somehow their main guy got blasted upstairs, so they had to like seek their fortunes in the hive and haven't been able to get off the world yet. I mean, just crazy stuff. Then, again with Dark Uprising came these 2 books, the Book of Judgment and the Book of Ruin. Oh, this is brutal. Like, not for the faint of heart. Because on Necromunda, it's the population numbers in the trillions. Like, the whole population of Earth is nothing compared to how many people are crammed onto this hive world. It's crazy. And it's like, well, how are there resources for all these things? It's all imported. It's all shipped in. It's wild. It's, you know, you got to sort of wrap your head around it. So what happens to all the bodies? They're not buried. They're recycled, Soylent Green style, into corpse starch. There's a whole guild that manages the resource of human bodies. And if I read it right, here's how it goes. There's workers that basically process the bodies, and they kind of go insane. Like, they start looking at all these bodies, and like the human mind just is not equipped for that. And they go quite mad, and they view it as food, and they start taking a bite here and there. And they put these helmets on them to keep them from, like discipline helmets, to keep them from eating it. And then, of course, the dark gods hear their cries, and lo and behold, you've got these problems. And they are just amazing. My son plays these guys in our game, and they are really, really brutal. I'm trying to find some good art here. I mean, crazy stuff. Hold on, I'm just looking for some. Oh yeah, here you go. Yeah, that's the Corpse Grinder Cults. Oh man, that's bad news. And this also contains, guess what? The army list for Gene Stealer cults. And maybe and you can take like a regular, like just chaos cult. And there's just, the art is crazy awesome in this. I mean, it's really, really super neat. So I gotta tell you, my pitch for Necromunda is pretty strong, guys. But who cares? There's so many games out there, you can't really go and like say, well, this one's great and everybody should do this. Because you know what? you don't have very much time in your life. Like your whole life, you're going to experience this. Even if you were a Renaissance man, a world traveler, you're going to experience this tiny little sliver of life. The experience of being you. So back to wargaming, Necromunda, I'm loving it. And here's why. Because they're not messing with Necromunda every 2 months. They've published materials. It's well supported. They've got this range of just gorgeous models. Forge World's coming out with bounty hunters and stuff. And the game background is broad enough that it's really easy to use models from other ranges and do conversions. And you see it on Necromunda, like Facebook pages or whatever. There's people that are loving it. They're just doing conversions like weird bounty hunters and mutants and rogue psychers and stuff like that. And it's really neat. And if you take the role-playing avenue where you have an arbitrator that's just house ruling things, kind of running it, making sure everybody has a good time, you know, making sure that it's fair. And there's groups out there that have published like house rules that are like really good, you know, great recommendations. And so, and that's the great thing about Necromunda, is that it has the right consistency. It's not it's not unsupported, so it's not in the dustbin, but it's also not being messed with constantly. It has like this set of rules, so FAQs are out, and it's okay. And if you get a good arbitrator, someone who's fair, someone who understands all the mechanics, then you're going to have a great time. And you don't have to wait for an FAQ. You know, like on 40K threads, I see like people are like, okay, this thing isn't clear. Now it's got to be sort of hashed out. Everyone wants to like kind of ingrain themselves in the rules, and it becomes like an issue. So that's the Necromunda books. I said bucks, I think, that I would recommend, and which is the rule book, the gang war book, and then the three, if you can swing it, the 3 supplement books, or maybe just pick up the one that has the thing you want to play in it, and go for it. Dark Uprising, it's a toughie. I think at the price point, you could get, if you can just swing it, then just do it. Totally worth it. The terrain is amazing, kits are amazing, the rule book that comes in there is amazing, but if you just want to play some other gang, you know, you want to do Delac, then just get the 2 basic books in your Delac gang. Maybe 2 kits for extra guys. I should probably go like this for our British fans. All right, that's it. Thanks for tuning in.